So another year has ended, and with it, I thought I would do a sum up of the books that I read this year that I thought were the best. Now, I didn't actually read a lot this year because I was busy doing other stuff, but then I realised a few months ago, what if I bought books and read them and said what I thought about them and made that into my main content? And that's what I did. So my favourite book of the year so far, what do you mean so far? It's literally the 31st of December. My favourite book of the books of the year have been Twilight. No, I'm joking. The first one that springs to mind is Requiem for a Dream, of which there's a famous film from the 2000 called Requiem for a Dream, starring Jennifer Connelly, Jared Leto. Well, this is the novel that came out in the 70s. And the writing style is quite distinct because there's no punctuation. There's a lot of run-on sentences, and sometimes before your mind adapts and gets used to the writing structure, you can't really work out who's talking. But then if you give it a few chapters, you get into it. I enjoyed it because it's a really miserable book and it's harrowing. So it follows 3 heroin addicts, and one of the addicts, Harry, his mother, who gets hooked on amphetamines disguised as diet pills. And it just says a lot about society and our addiction for fame, celebrity, comfort, wanting others, the American dream, seeking out success, financial gain, etc. It's bleak. There's no happy endings. Very bleak, very miserable. I liked it. Really enjoyed it. The next book, this is in no particular order, just what springs to mind, is Flowers for Algernon, which I read this year and wept over afterwards. The story follows Charlie, who has learning difficulties, and he works in a bakery, and he's got a very low IQ, about 60 or so, and he is medically altered in basically an experiment to increase his IQ, and he becomes a super genius. It's about the ethics of such an experiment and the ramifications of it upon Charlie and everyone around him. Again, not a great ending. It's a good ending, but it's not a happy ending. I mean, it's pretty sad. Why do I like just reading sad things? I'm only interested in stuff if it'll make me think and cry. Listen, I like books if they can make me feel things, because I'm a thoroughly unimpressed person all of the time. I don't feel as much as the normal person. I don't know. Sometimes it feels like I feel or lack as many feelings. So something sticks with me if it can make, which is the case for everyone, right? But there was a particular moment when Charlie's IQ is increasing and he's remembering more things about his childhood. And before he had the operation, he was a pretty happy-go-lucky dude, you know. Oh, I enjoy working at the bakery because I get to be with my friends. And he begins to remember more things, and you start to see his memories in a different perspective. It's told in the form of he writes status reports about himself, right? So in the beginning, there's lots of grammar, punctuation, and spelling mistakes, and as it goes on, that changes. His understanding of literacy becomes a lot more sophisticated, and he's remembering more things. And suddenly you see that his friends at the bakery aren't his friends at the bakery. They've been making fun of him and bullying him, but because of his learning difficulties, he attributed it to, oh, they're just joking around me and it's nice to have friends. And that's really sad. It made me so mad. And also his memories of being a child and the other kids not playing with him because he was different in that regard, and they making fun of him and bullying him. I was ready to throw my phone at some fictional kids. But honestly, really recommend this book. I think it's great. Just be prepared for the sad ending. Bit of a wild card. This was the year... Was it? Was this the year I discovered The Walking Dead? The past 2 years since the first lockdown have kind of blurred into one, so I'm pretty sure this year was the year that I started watching The Walking Dead, and I read the entire graphic novel series in less than a week, and I really enjoyed it. However, as for the show, I went from really enjoying that to... I haven't even watched the last 4 or 5 episodes because are the writers fucking joking? Like, spoilers for this entire video, but are you joking? You have yet another crazy guy who's just being crazy for the sake of being crazy, except we're about 12 years into a zombie apocalypse. So if someone is literally just being cuckoo for the sake of it, they would have been bumped off and fed to the zombies ages ago. No, like there's no reason for them to all be listening to that bloke when they like the crazy person that chucked the other person in the fire. No fucking reason. So I was like, I'm out. You're not wasting my time. But the graphic novel, because it ended, and I think it knew when to end instead of just keeping it going and going and going like a soap opera. Yeah, decent. Enjoyed it. Especially liked Negan in the graphic novel. He was my favourite character. Billy Summers by Stephen King. It's about a assassin for hire who's on his last job. And then it changes somewhat halfway through. But what I liked so much about this is it reminds me of his older stuff. Because I feel like the past few novels he's released that I've read just haven't really been... What's that one? The Outsider, for example. In the first part, it set itself up quite well with this mystery of this boy who's murdered. And then this coach is framed for it, though he says that he never did it. And then there's a conflict and security footage, blah blah blah. It sets itself up quite well, but then you notice halfway through how all the characters end up sounding the same. Like all the blokes just sound the same. And I don't know. I mean, he's not really famed for his endings, but the ending was just really super fucking anticlimactic. Spoiler alert: the guy. Wait, was it the guy or the woman? Someone has a sock full of. I don't know. It turns out that the bad guy is just like this vampire who lives in a cave. And then one of them has a sock full of either quarters or something hard and hits the vampire demon and he just dies. So not great. Not a great Stephen King novel. But this, I was satisfied with. I enjoyed it. I liked it. It made me feel things. I felt really sad at the end of all that transpired because, you know, I think it gets to me when someone just wants to do the one final thing of their career and get out and lead a happier life. But then if they're thwarted, you know, it's kind of like seeing paradise but never being able to get there yourself. Stopped at the last. Usually for a greater purpose, a greater good. But still, I always find that kind of stuff sad. But yes, I can recommend this because it is one of his better... Yeah, it's one of his better novels, but I realised I'm pretty sure this is the book where, yes, Billy is recollecting his abusive childhood from his crazy stepdad. And his stepdad, trigger warning for this, stomps on his little sister's chest until like she just dies. So it all breaks. And Stephen really writes the words, you know, her nubs, as in breasts, that would never... grow or mature, or basically she's never going to become an adult. She's 2 years old. She's just... But you're saying that about a toddler. Like, imagine if Billy the boy had been killed, you wouldn't say similar things about his male organs. You wouldn't say, oh no, his balls that are never going to reach maturity, would you? It's a very weird thing to say. And he does have a thing about always commenting like he's a YouTuber, just oh nice tits love on an Alizee video. Always writing about women's breasts in such a strange way to show that someone's age, like the Dead Zone. Johnny's former love interest in the Dead Zone. He wakes up from a coma, sees her a few years later, it's been 5 or however many years, and she's had kids and she's a bit older. Her breasts once were perky, now beginning to sag. Like there's always mention of women's boobs. Stephen, I like you. You need to calm down though. How is Tabitha okay with this? By the way, I have a lot of books here. A lot of them are 3/4 of the way finished though, because I have an issue with attention span sometimes. So one of my 2022 resolutions will be to get through this. Do you know what? 2022 resolution, I'm going to say right now, put out here so I have fucking hell. Put out here so I have to do it. Read this. Look. And look at the lack of paragraphs. That is like, ignore this page with all the paragraphs. Look at, and the paper is so thin. It's like the Bible of philosophy. 2022, my goal is to read this and understand at least a 10th. Can't ask for more than that. Special mention to Caitlin Moran, More Than a Woman. I haven't finished reading this yet, but I am enjoying reading it. Very enjoyable. She's a very funny writer. She reminds me of me. And finally, I'm not going to go into too much detail about this. I bought this as a video that I'm doing currently, buying a certain someone's most recommended books. So, this is from the same dude that wrote The Martian. I watched The Martian film with Matt Damon, I believe, and to tell you the truth, I was a bit disappointed because sometimes I have this issue of my brain taking titles too literally, and I thought The Martian would actually be about an astronaut meeting a Martian on Mars. Good film, but, you know, just missed the alien element. Now, spoilers alert, this doesn't. There's an alien in this, and I enjoyed reading this so much. I don't know how scientifically literate or accurate it is. I don't know. There's a lot of heavy sciencey stuff. It's about a man who has been sent to a different star system to find a cure for this tiny microbial, not parasite, it's just existing, it's not doing anything, like microbial mold called astrophage. So he's been sent to a different star system to work out what the hell's going on. And it can get heavy sciencey, but they explain in layman's terms afterwards, which I enjoyed. I devoured this in like less than 24 hours. I loved it. I wasn't so sure the first 20 pages because my only complaint is, and I haven't read The Martian, but you know, I looked on Reddit and saw other people were saying that Andy Weir has a habit of, I don't know, the protagonist's voices are always a bit too much, because I was reading the first 20 pages and I was like, this protagonist, this dude, Ryland, he sounds as though he's what you'd expect a traditional American, almost jock hero, superhero from the 60s to sound like. That doesn't make any sense. But, you know, the kind of like, oh my god, we have to go and save the world, and prom's tomorrow kind of. I don't know, he was a bit too, he always had a quip, and he was a bit, Ryland, he could be a little bit lame, you know, like the tiniest bit cringy, when he talks, like a bit immature. But even Ryland is aware of it. Look, page 15. Holy moly, I say. Holy moly? Is that my go-to expression of surprise? I mean, it's okay, I guess. I'd have expected something a little less 1950s. What type of weirdo am I? So he's aware of it. But I liked this so much because halfway through, he meets an alien. And again, I don't know how scientifically accurate this book is. I was told that The Martian was, because it was double-checked by lots of different people to make sure it could accurately happen. That's just what I was told, / what I've read online. But because it was a level of science where it seemed accurate, for someone who clearly doesn't know that much about science, I could really suspend my disbelief, which was fantastic. I could really believe everything that was going on. So when he meets an alien who is called Rocky, after Rocky Balboa, I enjoyed it so much because it kind of felt like, oh yeah, no, this is totally like, yeah, this is happening right now. I don't know how to explain it. I just loved it so much. And I loved Rocky. He was the best. Honestly, this book made me so happy. It's about Ryland and Rocky's blossoming friendship as they try to save their own planets. And it's such a sweet, their friendship is so sweet. I love it. And the ending, I really enjoyed. Spoilers again. I saw some people had some issues with the ending because Ryland goes back. I said I wasn't going to go into this too much, but I can't help it. I just really enjoyed it. Ryland goes back to Rocky's planet because there's some complications. So Earth is fine. The plan was never for Ryland to go back to Earth anyway. He was going to die in space. That was not an agreement because he was forced to do it and given amnesia by some drugs. But there's an issue with Rocky's solution to the astrophage issue. So Ryland goes back to Rocky's planet and just lives out his life there. And I loved that. He was a teacher in the beginning and he's teaching all these little Rocky aliens at the end. And a lot of people were like, oh, but I wish like he'd, gone back at least once. Why? We have so many. I was not halfway through, maybe 3/4 of the way through. I was getting sad at the thought of, oh my God, they're going to have to say goodbye to each other and they're literally never, ever, ever going to see each other again just because of, the disparity between the technology that's available and the distance between their planets, etc., etc. And I was getting sad, and I was getting a little bit teary-eyed. Like, in E.T., where that E.T. and Elliot obviously never saw each other again. Don't you think that fucking sucks? Like, you make this great friend who's an alien and then you never see them. Whatever. So I loved that for once the hero just goes back to the alien planet. Chills there, lives there. Why not? He didn't really have any obligations back home. It was a suicide mission that he was forced to go on. Screw it. I like that ending so much. Like, I didn't really give a shit what happened to Earth in the end of this. I mean, it was fine and it was saved. I could read an entire new book just about Ryland living on Rocky's planets and them trying to make life comfortable for him because they're from two completely different species. It is essentially MacGyver in space, but I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I may read The Martian. I saw the film with Matt Damon and there's no aliens in The Martian. If he makes another book about aliens and humans meeting, yada yada yada, I'll 100% read that. And I'm going to end on that note. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for watching for this entire year. If you've just joined in the last few months, cheers for sticking around. Let's all have a nice 2022 together. Look how fucking nihilistic and cynical I am. It'll be great. Probably. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!